So folks, welcome back to another Titans card review. We got two new Titans this time around, Demon Hunter and Shaman, and I think both of these look really strong. Kicking it off here is the freshly revealed Golganeth the Thunderer, a new 6-mana 5/7 Titan. Your first spell each turn costs 3 less. So honestly, that is an awesome base effect. Basically, you slam this down, you get one of these really good abilities, but you also are probably going to be able to play a spell that you care about right alongside it, and that's going to help you get even more stuff done, even swingier plays off of Golganeth that I think already looks, again, really good with these abilities. We've got Roaring Oceans. That's going to deal 3 damage to all enemies. Keep in mind that also hits face, not just board, and restore 6 health to all friendly characters. That's awesome. Honestly, an awesome board clear that can play for some chip damage as well. I think you could maybe run this in an overload deck with some burst damage too, so that chip damage is not irrelevant. So if you're behind on board, Roaring Oceans, kind of amazing against wide boards. Not all board shapes are going to be perfect, but we've seen plenty of this style of board clear work really well in Hearthstone, so I don't doubt that's going to feel great to play so many times. You've also got Shargon's Wrath here, which will draw you 3 overload cards, which you can use that a couple different ways. Number one, in an overload synergy deck, we've had that Inza package in Shaman. This could be another way to increase some consistency there and just give you another power play to get all those juicy overloads you care about. Keep in mind, you can also, use that ability, and then one of the spells you draw might cost 3 less. So if you don't have something great in hand for Golganeth, this could help you refill, find that awesome card in hand. You could actually just draw a Lightning Storm, for instance, use that as your board clear, and still benefit from having the 2 other cards left over as well from the Wrath, for instance. So you've also got Lord of Skies here as the final one. This one deals 20 damage to a minion. So if you're in Wild and your opponent happens to be running Soulbound Ashtug, boy, you're going to be super, super happy. Otherwise, this is just, I think, a removal for single target threats. So you've got the wide board removal with Oceans, the single target removal if something big and scary is on board and maybe you need to protect your Golganeth from those sorts of big trades in an 8/8 or whatever. And then you've also got the resource reload off the Wrath as well. So I think 3 distinct great options. Lord of Sky seems like the one that's going to be the least relevant, but will still have its moments where it's really important. But I could see both Roaring Oceans being an awesome stabilizer, clear that board, heal up a bunch for grindier decks, control decks, etc. Honestly, still might feel good in a deck that's looking for damage too, that needs some time to accrue all that damage. And then you've got Wrath for, potentially just drawing into burst damage, overload synergies. Just drawing 3 cards and having a scary Titan on board with a crazy cost discount is also good. It doesn't need to be in an overload synergy deck necessarily. Just running a few select overload cards and using this as a way to tutor them out could be really valuable as well. So all in all, this just looks really good. It just seems like it's doing so many great things. It's not like crazy game-breaking plays necessarily, but all of them look good. The cost discount's real. Card draw's awesome. So just a really strong card. So moving on over to Demon Hunter. This card's kind of scary. Argus the Emerald Star. I am Regis the Ginger Star. Comparison here. I am not a 7-mana 5/9 Titan though, like Argus. He also has this effect here. Minions to the left of this have Rush, and ones to the right have Lifesteal. So a couple different options there when you're playing minions, and I think he's going to give you some ways to help utilize that right away. For instance, the Argonite Army will summon you 4 2/2 elementals with Taunt, and we already saw in the reveal video that that's going to summon 2 to the left and 2 to the right. So that does mean 2 will have Rush, and then 2, as long as Argus is alive, will have Lifesteal. Otherwise, will just be some 2/2 taunts. So if needed, that could be a way to build a board all on its own and maybe take some trades of those ones to the left, trade into a couple small things, leave behind some taunts to perhaps protect Argus a little bit from trades while still simultaneously healing you up potentially too with that Lifesteal. So that's fine. I mean, I think that's reasonable, but the really crazy one here is Show of Force. This will reduce the cost of all minions in your hand by 2. So we're talking about some really significant mana saving there with Show of Force. And that's not like an end of turn effect like Emperor Thorison. I mean, you know, Emperor Thorison these days is a pretty old card. I don't know how he holds up all that well, but you know, he discounted by 1 at end of turn for all cards. This is minions by 2 immediately, which does mean if you have cheap minions in hand and they cost 2 or less, you're going to push those to 0 and they're going to be playable right away into the Argus Rush, for instance. So if you're willing to use your resources in hand or able, that might be a more effective way to still play for the board, kind of like Argonite Army, but while doing other things, generating more Outcast cards, doing some cheesy, crazy sort of combo setups. Maybe, you know, just playing a couple small things while also discounting other bigger minions that you need for some sort of specific combo payoff as well is a possibility. So clearly a huge mana discount in total, and that's going to create some real swings and some real threats out of that. That one looks crazy, scary good to me. And then finally here we have Crystal Carving, which definitely seems like the least interesting of the 3. This one allows you to discover a Death Rattle minion, and it costs 3 less. So I'd say rarely ever will you be picking this one. I think most of the time always you're going to pick Show of Force. Occasionally Argonite Army if you just need that board in a pinch and a can. And then Crystal Carving will probably be your last choice option. But I do think it exists in an important place from a design standpoint, which is if you specifically need like a crazy out, or you don't need maybe all these small minions on board, but you need a resource in hand, Crystal Carving could be there to kind of pull up the floor of this card to some extent. Maybe try to realize some good Death Rattle value, maybe get something that costs 3 or 4 or even up to 6 if you're playing this like on a 10 mana turn, and look for a surprise out that doesn't demand resources in hand and isn't capped with the size of the Argonite Army. So just gives you some chaos, basically some RNG to play towards, which I think is nice. Sometimes this card might feel kind of dead if you don't have a big hand to utilize, or if the 2/2s just aren't enough. You need that miracle out. Crystal Carving kind of presents that. So that will probably be the most rarely chosen, but occasionally an important way to do something spicy. We might also see some like Death Rattle synergies come along later as well. So keep an eye out there. But ultimately, yeah, I think this looks really good. I think Show of Force is so good on the first pass that you don't need like the Argus to stick around and extract extra value. I think you're going to be able to do some crazy stuff. But if the Argus does stick around, being able to give your stuff rush, just trade into the board again, probably feels really good. If there are Death Rattle synergies, obviously rush minions, giving rush to Death Rattles is even better. You're going to be able to activate those Death Rattles right away. So keep an eye there keep an eye on that one in the future. Might be another way this card gets utilized, but I don't think you need it. I think Show of Force is so crazy that that's going to be worth it. Sometimes Argonite Army might feel fine as a second go as well. So Argus to me looks pretty dang good. Golganath the Thunderer is a 5-star card. Argus the Emerald Star is a 5-star card. Yeah, that's right. I actually think both these Titans are going to be super powerful. Show of Force, that crazy cost discount, I think that's going to show up and be very powerful and very deck defining in some way or another. I don't know that Argus will be seen as often as Golganath. Like a lot of Demon Hunter decks may not want to go to 7 mana, but I think eventually he's going to define a deck and do something crazy and awesome and powerful. So that's 5 stars. And then for Golganath, I think he's just going to show up in tons of Shaman decks because he's just so generally useful. So I think that's a 5-star card because of his pervasiveness in the class. You've got one that's deck defining 5 stars, one that's everywhere 5 stars, but both just look like really powerful options to me. So curious about your thoughts on these cards. Share those down in the comments below. Thanks so much as always for watching, and until next time, game on.